over the past year, YouTube has cracked down hard on monetization. They've started showing multiple ads, longer unskippable ads, and even temporarily banning users who use ad block. This has become the new norm as the tech industry pushes towards maximum efficiency and profits. But how sustainable really is this? Are we actually going to end up like those memes with 8 unskippable ads in a row? Well, probably not, simply because it's not all that effective when it comes to monetization. Just think about it. What happens when you start showing multiple minutes worth of ads in a row? People are gonna switch tabs or cook dinner when the ads are playing, similar to what they might do during a TV ad break. So the engagement on each ad would be far less, meaning that the ad rates would also be a lot lower. Obviously, if you stack multiple ads together, the overall ad rate would be higher, but this is very much a case of diminishing returns, and this strategy can only take you so far. That's why for years now, we've been speculating that tech companies will move towards direct monetization efforts. You know, things like YouTube Premium, Super Chats, Super Thanks, channel memberships, and so on. With YouTube, this trend was obvious as they've had paid options for nearly a decade now. But more recently, we've seen other social media players leverage a similar strategy as well. For example, the king of social media, Facebook, recently announced that they'd be launching an experimental version of Facebook and Instagram without ads in Europe. This is expected to cost 10 to 13 euros per month, and a lot of you are probably thinking that's a complete ripoff, and maybe it is for you. But it's likely that for some users, it's more than worth it. And I suspect that over time, such options will become more and more popular, especially in Western countries, which is where these companies make the bulk of their money anyway. So here's the demonetization of these platforms in the era of adless social media. If you're interested in having companies pay you, check out our bond investing app Silo in the description below. But anyway, getting back to paid social media subscriptions, you might be wondering, why do any of this? Wasn't the ad-supported model already working extremely well? After all, it made these companies into trillion-dollar giants, right? Well, that's true, but in comparison to direct monetization, ads only generate a fraction of the revenue. We've done the math for this several times on this channel with YouTube, so this time we'll switch it up and do the math with Instagram. The average Instagram user spends 33 minutes on the platform every day. There aren't many statistics about how many posts the average person scrolls through, but looking around the web, it seems that a reasonable estimate is scrolling through 30 centimeters of content every 5 seconds. Depending on the size of your phone, the average Instagram post is 8 to 12 centimeters tall, so we're talking about roughly 3 posts every 5 seconds. Over 33 minutes, that works out to 1,188 posts. Roughly 20% of the Instagram feed is ads, so you would have scrolled through approximately 244 ads. Over a month, that works out to a whopping 7,341 ads. That's obviously an insane amount of ads, but it doesn't translate to all that much money. You see, Instagram only gets paid when you click on one of these ads. Now, technically, advertisers can opt to run a brand awareness campaign where they have to pay for every impression. But the standard for digital ads is some sort of pay-per-click or pay-per-engagement model because it's simply the most effective. They only have to pay for the leads that are actually relevant, but as you probably know, people clicking on ads is very much a blue moon occurrence. The average click-through rate on Instagram is only 0.22 to 0.88%, which is actually considered high compared to other social media platforms. We can estimate in the middle and call it a 0.55% CTR. This means that this user will engage with 40 ads per month or about 1 to 2 ads per day. Honestly, that seems to be on the higher side of things because I know most of you guys avoid ads like the plague. You'd be lucky to click on 1 to 2 ads per month, but let's call it 40 ads per month to estimate high. The average cost per click on Instagram is 0 cents to 25 cents. Calling it an average of 12.5 cents, you'd only be generating Instagram $5 per month, or just half of what they're looking to charge. Also, $5 per month is on the higher side of things. Only power consumers hit these numbers, and we can confirm that by working backward. Last year, Instagram generated $60 billion in revenue, and they had a total of 2.4 billion monthly active users. This means that, on average, Instagram generated $2.08 per user per month. That's just an average though. Users from developing countries likely generated more like 50 cents per month, and users from Western countries generated more like $4 per month. So off the bat, paying Western users will generate 2.5 times that amount. And honestly, that's not too surprising given how much friction is involved in the ad-supported model. Users have to click on the ad, then convert from the ad, and then advertisers have to make a profit, and then advertisers have to reinvest that money into next month's ad budget, and finally, a portion of that will come to Instagram. For obvious reasons, directly charging users is way more profitable. Also, this way, Instagram won't have to worry about fluctuations in ad engagement, or ad rates, or seasonality, or any of that. Essentially, they can earn more money more consistently with less shady practices. It's a win-win-win scenario from their perspective, and that's why they're likely to really push these options in the coming years, which brings us into the era of adless social media. Offering these adless experiences may not seem like a big deal. After all, what's really gonna happen? The top 20% of users start paying? That would still mean that 80% are still using the free version, right? Well, yeah, that's pretty much how it would turn out to be, but you might not realize how much this really changes the dynamics of online advertising. Just think about it. What type of person would pay for Instagram or is currently paying for YouTube Premium? Only people with a good amount of discretionary income. And what type of person would be most useful to target using ads? Well, people with a good amount of discretionary income. But with a paid version, much of these users would suddenly be removed from the advertising pool, which brings us into one of the core principles of business, the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle states that 20% of the effort leads to 80% of the results, and the remaining 80% of efforts only leads to 20% of the results. Applying this to social media, that means that 20% of users generate 80% of the revenue, and 80% of users only generate 20% of the revenue. By removing the top 20% from the advertising pool, these platforms would essentially be decreasing the effectiveness of digital ads on these platforms by 80%. Now, advertisers aren't stupid. They're not gonna keep spending the same amount of money on avenues that are suddenly way less effective. What are they gonna do instead? Well, they're most likely gonna take their advertising dollars to creators directly, meaning that we'll probably see way more brand deals, sponsorships, affiliate marketing efforts, and things of that nature. With time, 2 to 3 sponsorships per video could become the norm. In fact, that's already starting to happen with many financial podcasts. Now, of course, you can just skip past these integrations today, but what if that changes? What if creators were allowed to incorporate unskippable integrations into their videos? That might sound completely unfair. If creators are allowed to integrate unskippable sponsors into their videos and you're forced to watch them, why the hell are you also paying a monthly subscription to YouTube, right? Well, isn't that how things have been with TV for decades? You have to pay Dish Network or DirecTV $60 or $80 every single month just to get access to channels like the Food Network and Discovery Channel. But despite paying that much, you still have to sit through 16 to 20 minutes of ads for every hour of TV you watch. Also, many of the shows you watch are already intrinsically sponsor-oriented. Take something like The Price is Right, for example. On this show, you can earn prizes if you're able to guess the price of a product through fun games and challenges, and it's a fun show to watch. But if you take a step back, you're essentially paying a cable provider and then watching 16 to 20 minutes worth of ads every hour, only to then watch a show that's showing off 4 sponsored products every single minute. The number of monetization layers that are present is insane, but also not really surprising, because TV broadcasting has been perfected over several decades to be as profitable as possible. But TV wasn't always like that. In fact, for the first 14 years of TV broadcasting, commercials weren't even a thing. So is this the end of social media's golden era? Well, the answer is absolutely. Just check out this stat. As of May 2023, almost half of YouTube viewership happens on TV screens. If that isn't proof that YouTube and the rest of social media are becoming more traditional, I don't know what is. Over time, all these platforms are going to trend towards the path of maximum profitability, which is how TV already was. Essentially, you'll have to pay a monthly subscription just to access these platforms, and that's how the platforms make their money. And from there, you'll see sponsorships and ads, and that's how creators will make money. This isn't to say that there won't be a free option to access these platforms, but you can bet that it's gonna be a substantially worse experience, likely filled with a stupid amount of ads. But there is a silver lining to all of this. While such an evolution is inevitable, it'll likely take decades to play out. And in the meantime, there might be a new golden era. Given that these platforms have been free to use for as long as people can remember, it's gonna be rather tough to get people to pay. And that's why we're probably gonna see an era of extremely lenient policies. For example, you could get a YouTube family plan and split it with a bunch of friends and only end up paying $4 per month yourself. You might even be able to share passwords and get the cost down even lower. Now, Google and Facebook aren't stupid. They know exactly what you're doing, but they might allow it. After all, that's exactly what Netflix did throughout the 2010s. They had extremely loose policies for a very long time to get people addicted to the platform. And it wasn't until they reached market saturation that they started cracking down on password sharing. We might even see an initiation fee on Netflix soon so that you can't just subscribe for 1 month and then cancel. Google and Facebook will likely follow a similar strategy. They'll get users addicted to an ad-free social media experience for a low cost, and then eventually crack down hard when people are no longer willing to go back. From there, we might see unskippable sponsorships and things of that nature, but that's still a long way out. In the meantime, if you're an early adopter of any one of these subscription models and you're smart about it, you should be able to get some pretty good bang for the buck. You'll be able to experience the best that these platforms have to offer for the lowest prices you'll ever see as we pass through the demonetization of social media and experience an ad-free era. But don't get too comfortable because these platforms are simply playing the long game when it comes to monetization, and eventually things will be just as bad as television. Would you be willing to pay for an adless social media experience? Comment that down below. Also, if you're interested in deeper dives, interviews with insiders, and exclusive tech analysis, consider subscribing to our free weekly newsletter. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.